All right, let's go to the Skype machine over here. Is he there?
Tosh.
Oh, I hear him. There he is. Kyle?
I need
Kyle, do you hear me?
Yeah, I do.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Between the hair, the eye, the mustache, the stubble, you are looking great, my friend. You've never looked better.
I think it's called coming together finally.
Now, how is that eye? We talked about. I mean, it looked. I got to say, it looked pretty bad. We're seeing you here. It looks like it's a lot better. At least you can open it. How's it feeling right now?
It feels great. I got full movement. Obviously, I just still got the raccoon eyes, but I got to get checked out one more time to make sure that I don't need surgery. So that's pending the doctor visit with the last MRI.
So what are they saying the injury is right now? Like no broken orbital bone or anything like that?
It is a fractured orbital. It's actually right here, and it's it's also fractured again right there, right at the top of the beginning of the eyebrow. So multiple fractures there. It's thankfully it's closer to the surface of the orbital, so it's not it doesn't impact the eye, and that's why I was able to fly for the last month. Didn't have to take a boat home from England, so I'm pretty thankful for that.
Yeah, you've been traveling all over the place doing stuff with the troops, right? I mean, were you kind of just, I don't know, did you just want to go home and relax after, or was this something that you had agreed to prior to the fight?
We had agreed to it prior, and they do these tours quite often, but with all the camps you have going on, if they have a tour and it's during your camp, there's no way you can go. So when the tour director called me up and he said he was planning it, he wanted to make sure I could go and he wanted to schedule something after my fight. I said, I'm in for sure. Win, lose, or draw, if I'm hurt or not, I'll make sure I can go on the tour.
Was it tough? I mean, were you uncomfortable traveling with the eye in that kind of shape?
The doctor told me just watch out for pressure. If I feel that pressure building in my eye, then there could be some serious complications. So flying from England back over to Amsterdam first before we came back to San Francisco for a day, that was kind of my little tester. I got a test run for that hour-long flight, and it really didn't feel bad at all. So I knew after that hour-long flight I'd be good to fly after that, and there were no problems then.
Now, Kyle, as I mentioned earlier, you are a good-looking guy, but you just got a whole lot better looking because we lost your video, and now we just see an icon of Natasha Wicks on the screen, which I'm sure a lot of people don't mind. But have you gotten a little shy on us or what?
No, this I saw it freeze and then it went away, and now I'm trying to bring it back, and I'm just getting the circling icon, the timing icon.
Now, did you hack her Skype account? Because obviously a guy like you, and I mean, I can't imagine you even being friends with Natasha Wicks.
Yeah, you know what? I actually became friends with her on a tour for the troops. So reason enough to go and give back to the troops. I got to meet a hot chick like her, and here we are today, living together. So quite nice.
So you guys are more than just friends.
Yes, we are.
Wow, look at you! Yeah. Congratulations.
In fact, when you guys were trying to get me on the line with my Skype, you couldn't hear me, so I literally just grabbed her laptop and signed on, and that's why you see her face when you can't see mine.
Well, obviously that worked out very well. So are we gonna abort the plan? Oh, something's moving here. Are we gonna abort the plan and just go with this?
I'm trying. I'm trying to get this going.
All right. Well, at least we can hear you, which is good, and we're looking at Natasha, so that's not bad as well. Let's talk about the fight. Natasha, no, I'm just kidding. But seriously, in the fight, I mean, you took some heavy duty shots. Were you willing to keep fighting going into the third round there, or were you kind of relieved that they did stop the fight when they did?
No, I was relieved in hindsight knowing I had the fractures, but in the moment, I wanted to fight so bad. I really felt the momentum switching. I felt like I had, a second wind. I got my arms back. And that first part of the round, I was going for, really just a lot of control and trying to submit him with the different, Anaconda Dar series back and forth. And I remember telling myself, don't squeeze too hard, because I didn't want to gas my arms out. And when we stood back up, in the first round. I felt like I had limp noodles for arms. I could barely hold them up, and then obviously he went to town on me. But coming out in the second, I felt a shift. I felt like I got my wind back. I was able to get him to the ground quite a bit, and I felt like going into the third, he was spent, and I was going to get him.
Was he tougher though than it did look like he was getting very tired, but prior to that, was he tougher than you thought he would be?
Yes and no. Yes, in that he hit harder than I thought he would hit, and he I didn't think the guy was just going to fold after the first round just because he had never been into the second or third. But I mean, I guess I was on point with my assessment of his cardio, and I was a little underestimating his power.
You hear from some UFC veterans, because that's what you are now. A lot of guys don't want to fight these guys like Glover Teixeira and Jimmy Manuwa, guys who are making their debut, who are tough, but a lot of people, casual fans, don't know who they are. Why do you think the UFC has given you fights like this as of late?
I have really no idea, and it's funny because a lot of people ask me about that, like, oh, why do you keep taking these fights with these guys? And it's not up to us. I mean, some guys have the option. Some guys can turn down fights or say, who they want to fight. Or I guess if you go out and you talk enough crap about somebody, they'll put the fight together. But that's never been my style. So it's just one of those things. They tell me who I got to fight, and I go out there and I do it.
I was really bummed out watching the fight because the day before, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a beard aficionado. I just love beards. I can't get enough of them, talking about them, looking at them. And you had my friend. I mean, we've seen some beards, Johnny Hendricks, Kimbo Slice, but that was the most distinguished, healthy looking beard that we have seen in MMA in quite some time. It just worked. And it worked in England with what you were wearing. And then the next day, you were all clean shaven, and apparently Jimmy's camp had asked you to trim it, and you said, I'm not trimming this thing. I'm actually taking the whole damn thing off. What was up with that? Did you at least try to fight it? And is that really what happened? Did they actually ask for you to trim that thing?
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. But I was sitting in the fighter meeting with Dana White and Joe Silva, and we had gone through the weigh-ins and everything. You're basically, all you have to do now is just show up and fight. And Joe Silva came over at the very end of it. He tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "Hey, Kyle, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're going to need to talk to Mark Ratner. They want you to shave or at least trim your beard, and it's in the rule book." And I said, "Whoa, wait, the rule book? What, they got an MMA rule book that says you can't have a beard? What about all these guys with great beards?" I was looking at Big Country Roy Nelson and thinking maybe I should grow a beard. This guy's got a nice beard. And I talked to Ratner, and he told me, look, it is in the rule book. It's just if they complain about it. That's why most of these guys have been able to get away with it until now. And, I was disappointed big time at first. And obviously I'd spent 10 weeks growing that beard, and I did think it looked great, and I liked the idea of it. And but yeah, I didn't grow my facial hair for 10 weeks to come in with a 5 o'clock shadow. So there was no sense in trimming it down and going in there and fighting like that. Obviously, it just wouldn't have been the same. So I just shaved the whole thing off.
Do you think that was a dirty move on their part?
I honestly think there might have been a little bit of an intimidation factor with that beard. And I'm sure they just went up and said, "Hey, what the heck? He can't have a beard that long." And all of a sudden, somebody's like, "Well, actually, you're right if you do complain." And one thing led to another. Because I don't think Jimmy, I really can't see another fighter thinking to himself, "Hey, I'm going to make a complaint and it's going to go through and everybody's going to love me for it." I'm sure it was his cornerman that came up and said something, and then it just kind of fell into place that way.
When training with the beard, by the way, do you notice that there's, and if you could put it a little down, because I hear some feedback now, I think it's from the computer. When training with the beard, do you notice that it's easier on you? Like you get a bit of padding on your, like, does it help you out? Does it soften the blows, if you will?
I feel, with the big gloves, there might be a little bit of padding, but, with little gloves, if a guy puts it in the right spot, you're still going down. I think if there's any real benefit from it, it might be in disguising the chin location, but obviously, I've been putting some guillotines while you have that beard on, and there's a definite downside to the beard.
How so? Because actually, Martin Kampmann was talking about this as he prepares for Johnny Hendricks. How is there a downside?
Well, if I get put in a guillotine, it's and you got a clean shaven face, I can wiggle that chin out and it'll slide. But with the beard, there's a lot of grip there that's going to keep that arm in place. So it's really hard to get out of a tight lock like that. Even if I'm doing everything right with my body to posture and create some distance there, it's still hard to get it, the choke completely out.
Now, obviously, that was a tough loss, and you were coming off the loss to Sharon prior to that. Bonner, where do you go from here? Where do you think your career goes from here after those losses?
I have no idea. I spoke a little bit. They asked me for a quote right after the fight, and I just said, I've got some soul searching to do. I gotta see where I'm at, and mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually, and just kind of, really digest the whole situation. Digest the career, digest everything that's going on in my life, and see if this is something I want to continue to do. Thankfully I got 6 months suspension to figure it out. So it's not anything I have to decide right off the bat. But it is something where, you look at your career and whether, a lot of fans will look at me and they'll say, hey, that guy never had a shot at winning a title. And maybe they're right. But nobody gets into this sport thinking I'm going to be a millionaire by being a fighter. People get into the sport thinking I want to beat somebody's ass and I want to try to get the title. And getting to the UFC level and now being 4-4 as a UFC fighter, it was never my goal to come in and be a 500 fighter. It was never my goal to come in and win one, lose one, win three, lose three, that kind of deal. So whatever I end up choosing, if I do end up wanting to fight again, I know there's going to be a period of time where I will work my butt off trying to improve before I come back to the table to fight again. And you look at a guy like Dan Hardy, who took a lot of time after his losses, and he came back and he's well again. So that's whatever the decision is, there's definitely going to be some time between now and the next one.
But you said that you gave that quote. That was September 29th. Here we are a month later. Have you started to lean in one direction, or are you really going to take a lot of time before starting to think about this?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm leaning towards, not doing it again. That's where I'm at right now. And there's a number of reasons why I wouldn't just come out and say, hey, I'm retiring. And some of that has to do with medical bills are still covered, and some of it has to do with not knowing when I'm going to get that itch again. I could wake up a month or two from now and just be as hungry as I've ever been, and then dealing with, oh man, I shouldn't have opened my mouth a month ago. So, there is no final decision here, but I am leaning towards not fighting again. I'm leaning towards moving on and becoming a fireman.
Really? A fireman? Is that something you wanted to do for a while?
That's something I've wanted to do since college, basically. When I first started in MMA, it was on my mind. I got my EMT. A friend of mine out in Phoenix is a paramedic, fire paramedic out there, and he was helping me along through the testing. And we had made it through the written exam, physical, my first interviews, and we're on to the second interviews. And I came in, I was studying with a couple of the captains, and they saw me with a black eye from training and said, look, man, we love what you do, but you could come in here in your probationary year with a black eye, and somebody just might not think that's the right look for a fireman. And all of a sudden you're canned with no excuses. So at that point, I just made the decision to go for MMA, see how far I can take it and how long it'll last, and then go back to trying to be a fireman afterwards.
Okay. And just wondering, I mean, obviously you said you didn't want to be a 500 fighter and whatnot, but can you at least, if you do decide to walk away, a lot can change in the next 6 months. Can you walk away with a smile on your face and say, I made it to the UFC, I was on the show, I had some good moments? Like, are you content with what you did, at least inside the octagon?
Very much so, very much so. And that's a big conversation I had with my head trainer, Bob Cook. He said, hey, if this ends up being your last fight, look at the guys you ended with. You ended with a legend in Stephan Bonner. You ended with a guy who could potentially have the belt at some point in Glover Teixeira, and you ended with a great fight that had the whole crowd on their feet in England. You know, everybody was going crazy during that fight, and I've had, you know, so many compliments, so many nice things said to me since that fight. So really, I've got nothing to hang my head about. I've loved every second of it. I'm not bitter about anything. You know, fighting has changed me as a person. It's made me a better person. And every camp you go into, you learn something about yourself. There's so much personal growth that goes into each camp. Like I said, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, that I can never look at fighting a bad way. I'll always look back and love every second of it. And, you know, whether I continue or not, that's something that I'll have no matter what.
And just to be clear, Kyle, you're still a member of the UFC, right?
Yes, that's true. They haven't cut me, so very, very grateful for that. And yeah, you know, if you decide to stick around, it will be UFC fights that I'm coming back to.
Let's end on this positive note, or I think it's a positive note. Not to say that the rest wasn't positive, but you'll see what I'm saying in a second. We've got a lot of people in the MMA community, thankfully, listening to the show. We got Filthy Tom Lawler, who just tweeted us and asked me to ask you about the Bahrain toilet incident / show. What is he talking about?
Oh, God. That brings back some good memories. Well, I was just in Bahrain, and I told, I think, every single person I ran into about this. So at the end of last year, Tom and I were on a tour together, and we got to Bahrain, and we both had to go to the bathroom really bad. So we're looking around. We asked one of the guys where the latrine is, and he's like, "Oh, it's right up here." So he points us in this direction, and we get up there. I'm not sure how radio appropriate this is, but I'll try to tone it down a notch. We get up there, and I got to go to the bathroom really bad, number one. He's got to go to the bathroom really bad, number two. Now, I didn't know this, but there's only one toilet up there, and he just drops his pants and jumps down on it. I'm like, dude, I got to go bad. You should have let me go on first. And he goes, just go. So I very carefully take a leak in between his legs while he's sitting on the can dropping a deuce.
Oh, what?
And he goes and squeezes as hard as he can, and the loudest fart comes out with a big kaplunk into the toilet, and I start dying laughing, and my stream starts moving up and down. So he's obviously nervous that I'm gonna hit his junk, and somehow we managed to get it out with no mess on the table. I don't wee on him, but yeah, we were dying about that, and that's one of my favorite memories of my tour for the troops.
So that was a new way of crossing the swords, if you will.
Yeah, we did not cross streams though. No stream crossing there.
That is disgusting. That is not a positive note. Let's end on this note. I heard you actually was texted this picture. People are telling me that they're eating lunch right now, and thank you very much for ruining it. You were texted this picture of your Halloween costume. You dressed up as quite the school. This is from this year. You were a Catholic schoolgirl, and you were wearing a thong, right? I don't know if you could see it, but here's the picture right here on my phone. That's from this year?
Oh no, that's from 2005. The UFC is putting together a little Halloween thing, and they asked me for your favorite Halloween costume. So I sent Prescott Miller in that photo and told him this was the best Halloween costume I've had yet. And yeah, that was a good one. Me and two of my buddies dressed up as Catholic schoolgirls, and my other friend was the priest, and he kept spanking us the whole night. But it was a good show.
Yes, as I can see. See, this is why we need you around in MMA, at least for a couple more years. The costumes, the toilet stories, the beard, the fanny packs. I think you still have some work to do, my friend.
Yeah, maybe there is some unfinished business.
Maybe so. Maybe we left that door open a little wider today. Kyle, really appreciate it. Happy to hear the eye is feeling a little better. Keep us posted on the final diagnosis, and if you can, let us know what you do decide in 6 or so months. It's been really great covering you and watching you, and really enjoyed what you brought to the table. So I guess selfishly, we hope it isn't the last we've seen of you in MMA in some capacity.
Thank you very much, Ariel. I've had a great time talking with you, and it's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Kyle. All the best. Say hi to Natasha, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Sounds good, brother. Take care.
There he is, Kyle Kingsbury. Check him out on Twitter. Let him know what you think about whether or not he should walk away from the sport of MMA. Very, very, very honest stuff there from Kyle, and it's always something when someone just drops that upon you. You're not really thinking they're going to go in that direction, and then you have a guy who sort of opens his heart to you and tells you that he's at this crossroads here, thinking about becoming a fireman, potentially thinking about maybe walking away from the sport. One of the true personalities in a sport filled with personalities, Kyle Kingsbury is, and we hope to see him around in some capacity, as I said. So his Twitter is twitter.com/Kingsboo. KINGSBU. People responding to the the bathroom story. That is quite the story. That is the image that popped into my mind there as he explained that was pretty nice.